Chuck E. Cheese's is probably the most famous arcade chain of all time. When someone thinks of an arcade, they probably think of the Big Rat himself. But I think it's safe to say that Chucky hasn't been doing too great lately. In fact, I'd go as far to say that Chuck E. Cheese's is one of the saddest companies I've ever seen.
Don't resist. Do not resist. 5 for 9, we have 1 to 10. Okay, he's the suspect. He stole someone's card here.
They put the mascot head on top of the police car. But before we get into the state of how the company is doing, I feel like we need to go over how they even got there. Now, Chuck E. Cheese's is probably one of the most parodied chain restaurants of all time. The very concept of a dirty children's arcade where their mascot is a giant rat is really funny. But obviously, the most successful Chuck E. Cheese parody of all time is Five Nights at Freddy's. This is not a debate. Five Nights at Freddy's was created based upon the reputation that Chuck E. Cheese's is a creepy place. And that spun into something that has been more culturally relevant than Chuck E. Cheese's has ever been in the past decade. Kids in the modern day probably recognize Freddy Fazbear way more than they do Chuck E. Cheese. Heck, FNAF is popular in places that have never even had Chuck E. Cheese's. Dawko, one of the biggest FNAF YouTubers, lives in England, which is a country that does not have Chuck E. Cheese. Like, I googled if there were Chuck E. Cheese in Europe just to fact check myself, and literally like 2 hours ago they announced that they're opening ones in Europe, so my point still stands. I mean, this only happened a few hours ago, but like, what the hell, they're watching me. But anyway, I was about to say, Dawko is just one of many examples. FNAF's appeal flew straight past the demographic of people who know what the hell Chuck E. Cheese is. Which isn't unexpected. FNAF is an internet-based franchise inherently, and Chuck E. Cheese is a thing that is a physical location, so it makes sense why it wouldn't be as popular internationally because, well, if you don't really have a Chuck E. Cheese near you, there's not really a way for you to be attached to it. But that's not all I want to talk about in this video. I believe that Chuck E. Cheese as a company is something that has completely fumbled its way to adapt into the modern age. A massive thing comes onto the scene to rejuvenate interest in the exact type of thing that they are, and they decided to run away from it. They slowly stripped their establishments and brand of anything that people found unique about it and turned themselves into a soulless husk of what they once were. This is the story of how Chuck E. Cheese made the wrong decisions for literally everything, and FNAF ended up winning in the end. But before we get into all that, I want to remind everyone that my new plushie is available for 1 month, so if you want to get one, go get one while you still can. It's got a lower price, I think the design is much cuter, and I hope you guys like it too. So, link in the description and the pinned comment if you want to get one, and I don't want to spend too long on this, so back to the video. So, Chuck E. Cheese. He may not be much nowadays, but back in the day, it cannot be understated how big of a thing Chuck E. Cheese's was. Same with Showbiz Pizza. Animatronic restaurants were genuinely such a big thing back then. And they weren't just created by nobodies either. The guy who created Atari and started home console gaming also created Chuck E. Cheese's. The guy who created the Rockefeller explosion invented Whack-A-Mole. He also sucks, but like, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, now, I ain't gay, but I never kissed a girl.
Damn, why can't I get some of that action?
These restaurants were no joke, and they were truly revolutionary. And Chuck E. Cheese was going pretty strong from the 90s through the 2000s, with many different eras, my favorite era being the Avenger era. I don't know why it's called that, but like, this guy's cool. But I think the point where a true shift happened in the company was in 2012 when they introduced this little goblin rat, little disgusting little freak thing. Now obviously this redesign has nothing to do with FNAF since it predates FNAF by a couple years, but like, it has something to do with Alvin and the Chipmunks. I can't prove it, but I'll tell you that. Now when they introduced this redesign, the animatronics stayed exactly the same. The most recent model they had introduced at the time was this Studio C model, and, you know, he's a very good animatronic. He's on a stage on his own, which is it's a little lame that there's no other characters with him, but, like, he's a cool animatronic. He's got a lot of movement and stuff, he's very modern, but, like, you couldn't update him when you introduce an entirely new redesign? I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me. But Chuck E. Cheese was in this weird limbo where, like, their animatronics, which is, like, their most prominent feature, are, like, outdated now. because they did this like massive redesign overhaul, but the animatronics are the only thing left untouched. But you know, at least the animatronics are still there, right? So 2014 rolls around, Five Nights at Freddy's releases. It is a big phenomenon. Everybody's talking about the new scary animatronic game. It's the talk of the town. They're releasing sequels left and right. FNAF is this massive new IP. 2 years later, FNAF has toys in stores and stuff. It is immediately blowing up as a franchise. Very, very big thing. And obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's is inspired by Chuck E. Cheese. I believe the FNAF 1 animatronics are specifically based on the Cyberamic models just because of how they look. But that's a big thing, okay? When I was little, I got so much more interested in going to Chuck E. Cheese when FNAF became popular. Because like, there's a thing that I like where an animatronic pizzeria is the central area, and then I look and there's an animatronic pizzeria near me, I want to go to it. And as a kid, if the animatronics weren't there, I would not want to go to a Chuck E. Cheese. In fact, I actively tried to seek out ones that had a full stage instead of just a studio seat. And I'm sure a ton of other people out there have this shared experience. FNAF undeniably had a massive impact on people being interested in Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. Tons of people learned about animatronics and became interested in them through FNAF, and without FNAF, there probably wouldn't be nearly as much of a modern interest in animatronics. Now, obviously, not all of the appreciation is from FNAF. That would be stupid to say, but it's definitely how a lot of younger people like myself got really into this stuff. There's so much love and appreciation on the internet for the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics and their history, but it doesn't seem like the company has cared at all about it until recently. And their recent efforts are appreciated, but it's like, it's too little too late, and it's also really desperate. But I'm kinda getting ahead of myself, so let's reel it back a little bit. Now, I'm no business genius, but when Chuck E. Cheese redesigned him in 2012, it seems like they stopped advertising the animatronics pretty much completely. They still used them, they still made new show tapes, but they pretty much just stopped advertising the fact that they had animatronics. It wasn't a focus for them, and they weren't actively upgrading the technology. And then when FNAF came around, it seems like they went in this slow sort of crash out spiral where they just slowly got to the point where they had to do this to them. Was it really necessary to do this during hours of operation? This company seemed so ashamed of their animatronics and their history for seemingly no reason other than FNAF being a horror IP, I guess. People find the animatronics creepy, the animatronics are outdated. You know what could have helped them being outdated? Making new ones. I think the right move that Chuck E. Cheese's could have done would have been to make new animatronics, double down on the idea, double down on the technology. They say the animatronics weren't popular, but I really don't think that's true. If they weren't popular, why would they be half the identity of the damn restaurant? If they weren't popular, why would kids be buying animatronic action figures at Walmart? If they weren't popular, why did people have such a visceral reaction to you guys destroying all of them? I think they literally had the complete wrong reaction to this. They could have used this as an opportunity to capitalize the hell out of the fact that animatronics are popular again, but instead, they decided to use it as an opportunity to move away from them. And they really didn't have anything ready soon enough because they did the whole redesign, but they didn't really plan to do anything to the stores at the time, it seemed, but eventually they did want to do stuff to the stores, but it was after COVID and they had gone through bankruptcy, and it was like, okay, what are you gonna do now? You gotta rip out the animatronics because you don't have money to make new ones. So they do all these garbage 2.0 remodels to all the stores, so now they have like, instead of fun kids arcade vibes, they have like modern Taco Bell redesign vibes. If they aren't interested in the animatronics, why would they be interested in the dance pad? Like, you cannot make this up, they literally replaced the animatronics with Lanky Box. And yes, that is real. They did actually just, like, put the TVs where the animatronics used to be, and they played Lanky Box on the TVs at times. That's just messed up on so many levels. It reminds me of them playing Markiplier on Disney XD, but at least that's not gonna fry your kids' dopamine receptors. And speaking of Lanky Box, did you know that Lanky Box had a ghost kitchen on delivery apps? And did you know that that ghost kitchen was the inside of Chuck E. Cheese's? They got so desperate during the pandemic that they had to repackage their own food in Lanky Box packaging, and honestly, I kinda feel bad for them. They also had a ghost kitchen called Pasquale's Pizza, which my mom actually ordered from on accident without realizing it was Chuck E. Cheese's, and I think that's funny. But it's so confusing, because on the delivery apps, they have Pasquale's Pizza, but they also have Chuck E. Cheese's, so it's like, why? What? It's literally only here so people will hopefully order from Pasquale's Pizza thinking it's a real pizza restaurant and not realize that they're ordering from Chuck E. Cheese, but they're gonna name it after one of their characters, so, like, technically they're not being misleading. Cause, like, yeah, I guess it is Pasquale's Pizza. He is the chef, isn't he? Oh no, never mind, you killed him. I forgot. You ripped out all the animatronics. FNAF was gonna have a ghost kitchen once called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery, and it was gonna be one of those crappy ones where it's all from, like, this weird, like, warehouse thing where they make food for, like, 80 different restaurants on the same delivery app, and it's really scummy. Eddie Burback made a really good video on this. But I'm pretty sure they canceled Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery because Mr. Beast had legal issues with Virtual Dining Concepts, which is the company who made Mr. Beast Burger and was also going to make Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery. And I just think that's funny that Mr. Beast caused the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery to be canceled. You can get Lanky Box out of a real kitchen, or you can get Freddy Fazbear's out of a fake kitchen. Which one do you choose? Imagine if we lived in the universe where Chuck E. Cheese didn't team up with Lanky Box and didn't have a FNAF allergy, so then they opened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Delivery through Chuck E. Cheese's instead. I feel like that would have been literally perfect. A big topic I want to talk about in this video is the Chuck E. Cheese Twitter account. Now, they have me blocked, and that's because I replied to them with FNAF because I wanted to see if it would work, and it did work. And if you're wondering what'll work, this account, for such a long time, I'm not sure if they still do it, but for a very, very long time, they would just block anybody who would reply with FNAF or have a FNAF profile picture or anything. They were like, it was like a corporate mandate that they had to block everybody related to FNAF, and that is so crazy to me, because during the era where they were doing this, the FNAF movie came out, and they released this. Come on now. You cannot be blocking everything related to FNAF and then making a FNAF movie parody poster to promote your restaurant, and, like, also, it's just very ironic that FNAF is the parody, but now the thing is parodying the parody because the thing fucking fell off. What's going on back there, Chucky? What am I looking at back there? Did anybody go to this party? Like, did anybody actually go to the Chuck E. Cheese 5 Nights of Fun party? Did this happen? This was like a year after the Lanky Box, by the way. Now, one last thing I want to mention about the 5 Nights of Fun promotion is Pasquale's Ghost. This image. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is real, since I can't find much proof of 5 Nights at Fun even actually occurring, so I don't even know if this was enforced, but if it is real, let's read this. Now, for those of you who don't understand, this image is explicit instructions for how the employees can dodge questions about FNAF, which includes great things like, do not say, "This is our take on 5 Nights at Freddy's for Halloween." Instead say,
5 Nights of Fun is not related to or in partnership with any company, brand, organization, or media outlet outside of Chuck E. Cheese.
Although honestly, a part of me thinks this image is completely fake because you can see here, it tells the employees to straight up just pretend FNAF doesn't exist. Like, I get clarifying that it's not associated, but pretending it doesn't exist is a little funny. Haunted characters? No way! Unless Mr. Munch doesn't get his pizza on time. Now that's scary. According to them, Mr. Munch is everyone's favorite purple guy. The thing that really makes me think this isn't true is the fact that the original poster for the event says it's from the 9th through the 13th, but on this image it says it's only on October 27th, which obviously wasn't true, so either they changed their plans and were originally gonna put it right on the FNAF movie's release date, or this image is just completely fake, which wouldn't be unheard of for FNAF-related Chuck E. Cheese rumors. But let's just say, if this image was real, then whoever was the employee in this Chucky costume, you don't want to know what they did to them. I should probably say this is literally the only video of the 5 Nights at Fun event I could find, and it's literally, like, directly acknowledging FNAF, so I don't think this image was real. Okay, so I DoorDashed Chuck E. Cheese because, okay, walking into a Chuck E. Cheese on a Saturday while it's popular with kids, kind of weird. And also, the 2.0 remodel is lame as hell, and I don't really care about going inside my location and investigating in person, because you know what it is, okay? But how can I hate on the pizza? I'm not gonna be like Shane Dawson, okay? I'm gonna have a nice, level-headed view. It looks like they ran on a budget for their own pizza boxes, though. This is insane, right? Like, this, I got a Chuck E. Cheese pizza and it's in like a generic pizza box. It's kind of crazy to me. Anyway, let's get this open. Wow. Alright, so it's my sacred duty. It's what Chuck E. Cheese would have wanted, so, I guess we'll just grab a slice here. Alright, let's try it. It's alright. Looks like they fixed the uneven crust predicament, but like, okay. I've pretty much always felt this way about Chuck E. Cheese pizza. It is like the most like average stuff ever. The only big issue is the price, but like you're paying a premium for this guy over here. I'll say though, this garlicky stuff they put on the crust is pretty good. Thank you, Chuck E. Cheese, for this delicious food. Have you ever wondered why the rockstar animatronics in FNAF are called that, even though they don't have anything rockstar-like about them? Like, yeah, Bonnie has his guitar, but he's always had that. And it's like, Chica has maracas, how are these rockstar? Not to mention the accordion. Have you ever thought about that? Well, I did, and then I realized the official name for the modern version of Chuck E. Cheese is the Rockstar Chuck E. Cheese. That's what he's called. I'm pretty sure that's why Scott named this that, because this is like the most modern version of Freddy at the time in universe. But then because the Rockstar prefix was wasted on these goofballs from FNAF 6, they had to call the ones that were in Security Breach the Glamrock animatronics to not cause confusion, which I think worked out in the end. I mean, Glamrock is definitely better. I prefer that over them being called Rockstar, but I just think it's funny because, like, I that's gotta be intentional, right? Scott definitely intended that. So before we get into Chuck E. Cheese's last stand, I want to talk about probably the saddest example of a company not having money anymore that I think I've ever seen. So I think in the long term, Chuck E. Cheese's probably regrets making the new Chucky design a CGI character, because they haven't been able to create new renders of this guy in so long. Because obviously creating detailed CGI renders of this character is very expensive. And through looking at renders of this character, I notice a lot of the time they're reusing like heads and bodies for renders and stuff very, very often. And obviously because of the company's financial struggles, making new images of Chucky isn't really on the table. And it seems that the two most recent renders of him are these Christmas and Halloween ones, and if you look closely at them, they're just photoshops. Like this vampire Chucky render, for example, is just these two Chucky renders smashed together with a cape on it. And credit where credit is due, they have tried alternatives to the CGI Chuck E. Cheese. Most famously, the puppet is very, very prevalent, and I think the puppet's pretty charming, okay? He's a little funny, you know, he does his Twitch live streams.
Poggers!
I like how he starts like shivering in fear after he says it, like he has no idea what that means, he's so scared. But all in all, I think the character puppets are pretty charming, and I don't really have a problem with them. They at least have a bit of soul, unlike most of this company at this point.
Friends online, building a majestic castle on Minecraft.
And they've also tried various 2D versions of the Rockstar Chucky. The logo looks like this now. It looks really gross. I don't know why. They had a version of this where he has like eyebrows and eyelids and it looks a lot better. I don't know why they took those off. It looks weird. And, you know, cartoon adaptations, you know, varied success here.
Pumpkins in my pockets. I've got pumpkins in my pockets. I've got pumpkins. I've got pumpkins. I've got pumpkins in my pockets. I've got pumpkins.
Recent times, Chucky has dabbled into the world of AI to create new renders. Most recently, this VIP member event image. Now, Chucky here just doesn't look right. There's something wrong about this. They've done ones before that have like the Studio Ghibli piss tint to it, and it's really funny. Like, can we all just agree here? This looks a little creepy. Like, creepier than normal. Let's be honest with ourselves, no Chucky AI image is ever going to be scarier than this official render. Why does his face look like that, and why did they pick this one for the pizza box? He looks so scary here. Like, look at him normally, then look at him here. Something's wrong. Not too long ago, they posted this really weird video that says, "Where is Chucky landing next? Hint, it's an island." And then it plays this scary, like, AI video of Chucky skydiving while he, like, why? Why would you even make this? What does this mean? Hint, it's an island? Okay, it's either North Sentinel or it's the other one. It's the Fortnite Island. I don't know what other island you would be thinking of. Now, probably most concerning of all is this video that they posted, which features AI-generated videos of children. And I'm gonna blur it out because it's creepy and weird, and I'm just gonna say this, okay? This should be illegal, right? Like, this is not a good technology to exist, and I think it should be completely illegal. I think we can all agree on this. You should not be able to generate videos of children doing whatever you want, okay? That is just... Chuck E. Cheese is doing this, by the way. I already showed this image earlier, but I feel like it's necessary to show it again just because we need to talk about this, okay? This image was released for an auction thing. I don't know what the auction was for. I don't really know the context. All I know is that Chuck E. Cheese officially made this image for an auction, and what's going on over, like, why are there people in white blankets everywhere? At least I assume they're people, like, the crowd is all covered in white blankets. And there's, like, silhouettes of more people in the background, too. It's like, is he auctioning off people? Is he, like, are there different things underneath these blankets that we're not being told about? Like, there's so much mystery to this image, and I don't want to know the answer to any of it, because this is what an AI thinks that an auction looks like. And you know, now I saved the best for last, okay? Because the last Chuck E. Cheese AI thing I wanted to talk about is Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World. Now, this is an indoor theme park spin-off that Chuck E. Cheese has wanted to open, and I have no idea how they expected to fund this, because this seems very, very expensive, and they do not have the funds. But let's take a look at the concept art that they made for it. Now, here we got a logo concept. Couldn't get any Chucky art. Couldn't, like, Photoshop a hat on him. Okay. And then we got another one, and it's worse. There's some really funny aura about these images, okay? It's like... It's just all the context around them, that this is like a company going bankrupt and they can't pay artists. It makes this like funny in a really sad way. I don't even think the actual logo here is that bad. It's just you got this gross AI like explorer Chuck E. Cheese, and I have no idea why they decided to do this. And the funniest thing is that there's probably a universe out there where they would have went with a logo with an AI Chucky on it, because they're clearly not opposed to using it on final products. They put it on merch, they put it on like social media posts. They're clearly not against that. Then we got this absolutely wonderful concept of what the outside of a Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World would look like. And there's so much to dissect here, okay? Like, you got the stock images of, like, families walking out of the building. This looks like the outside of a Five Below. You can see inside of one of the windows, you can see a bunch of Chuck E. Cheese characters on top of a stage next to an arcade. So, are they just, like, making new animatronics? What does this mean? And the other side shows the inside of a toy store or something. And then the middle window shows a real-life image. Now, that real-life image is actually a photo of one of the actual Chuck E. Cheese Adventure Zones, which are located inside of the Chuck E. Cheese locations. Now, the Adventure Zones, I think, are actually one of the only good additions they've made to the restaurants in recent times, because they're pretty cool. You know, it's a nice replacement for the play places. You got trampolines, you got slides and stuff. No gross tubes that are hard to clean. I get this. This is nice. This is a good replacement for the tubes. I fully approve of this. Good job, Chuck E. Cheese. You made one good decision in your life. And it seems like the focus of Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World was just going to be a giant Chuck E. Cheese play place, which is a cool idea. So let's take a look at the other concepts. Yeah, no, this is good. You do that all by yourself? So the first concept we have here is a pretty standard looking Chuck E. Cheese play place, but you got like the Little Tikes cars and like an inflatable ball pit for some reason. You got 3 almost identical copy-pasted Chuck E. Cheese heads like lined up in a row for some reason, and one of them has like a doorway that's his shirt that goes over the slide. You got all these weird, gross kids. You got like... what's going on with the chairs here? There's obviously this is AI and it's not gonna make sense, but like, what is that in the background? What am I looking at back there? Sign in the back says Chuck Cheese, and then also I notice how the AI has only used the Cool Chucky or Avenger design. So I guess even the AI knows what's better. We got another one here, which is kind of more confusing, because you got more of like the vehicles and stuff, the Little Tikes vehicles and stuff, and then you got like this like gateway thing with, again, copy-pasted Chucky heads, but they're like really weird looking Chucky heads. And then you got like adults, but they're like the same height as the kids. It's like, Like, look at this man right here. He is, like, barely taller than the Little Tyke's car. Is that, like, Jackie from FNAF on top of the Chuck E. Cheese sign there? Why are there umbrellas just, like, randomly? Why is there, like, a forklift back there? Hold on, there's a forklift. Is that your idea of fun, Chuck E. Cheese? You're gonna have us play with a forklift? It does sound fun. And then, finally, we have this absolute monstrosity of an image. What is happening? Okay, so you have, like, an Avenger-esque Chucky as, like, a giant statue. Then right behind him is, like, a more modern Chucky. I say that, but it's kind of just the same thing without his hat on. And then it says, Chucky's World of Adventure, which is not the name of the establishment. There's so much wrong with this image. There's so much to dissect. Like, what's that thing? What is this little tube thing? Why are there 2 holes on this slide? Why is there, like, a giant, like, death hole on this thing that would just let a kid, like, fall, like, 20 feet? Why is there, like, 2 slides intercepting here? But there's, like, this whole image doesn't make sense. Like, none of this really works together. I can't even blame the AI. It's stupid. It doesn't know what it's doing. I blame whatever person at Chuck E. Cheese thought this would be viable concept art. And the final product looks like this, so what are you even talking about? Did they intend to use these as actual, like, marketing for the place? Because, like, then you're just, like, Glasgow Willy Wonka experience. Chuck E. Cheese's Adventure World has to be one of the funniest footnotes in the entire history of this company, and I really hope it actually opens someday, because I will be going there and I will be laughing the entire time if it looks anything like this, but it won't. And you know, AI is a scary technology that's slowly taking over the world, so I think we should get to a bit of a lighter topic. What is Chuck E. Cheese doing nowadays to try to appeal to the older crowd? Chuck's Arcade is a new spin-off to Chuck E. Cheese's that is basically just the arcade of Chuck E. Cheese's inside of a smaller building with no food and some very half-assed Pizza Time Theater branding. Now, to be fair, they do have arcade machines more similar to what you'd find at a Dave & Buster's, which, to be fair, isn't really that different from what you'd find at a Chuck E. Cheese, but there's definitely some more mature arcade games here, and also some older ones, like you can see here. Got some old cabinets and stuff, which is neat. And I do like the use of a lot of old Chuck E. Cheese stuff, like they got the Lucky Token, you got all the artwork on the wall. It is very nice looking. The arcade itself doesn't seem that special, but the stuff that's in here seems pretty neat. But the most concerning part about Chuck's Arcade is the animatronics. Now, don't get you mistaken, these are not fully operational Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. They are cyberamic animatronics that have been placed inside of glass cases, which is a cool idea. And they could have just stopped there, but it's modern Chuck E. Cheese's. They're gonna do something stupid, so you're probably wondering, what's wrong with this, okay? What's wrong about this, okay? What you're looking at here is the animatronic equivalent to taxidermy, and I don't just mean by the fact that they don't work, I mean by the fact that they literally broke the animatronics in order to put them here. Let's look at a picture of what Pasquale normally looks like, and let's look at a picture of Pasquale at Chuck's Arcade. Something's wrong here, right? Pasquale doesn't usually stand up. Yeah, that's because they basically just, like, tore apart the endoskeleton inside of it, basically, and made it stand up like this. They basically just broke these animatronics so that they'll never work again, ripped all the electronics out, and put them in this terrible waving pose that looks like garbage. The idea of having animatronics on display in cases, even if they're not functional, is awesome. That is such a cool idea to have a little Chuck E. Cheese museum and an arcade, but why did you have to break them? I feel like that literally defeats the value of having a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic on display. You have destroyed the authenticity of this so you could put Chucky in a terrible waving pose that he's never done before. I can't get over that part. Like, if you're gonna tear apart the animatronics insides and lock them into some pose, can you at least make it something cool and dynamic that the animatronic wouldn't normally be able to do? Like, I don't know, it's like, you're gonna do that and go through the effort of even doing that, and you're gonna put them in this pose? Like, this is the one that you pick? And they're all doing the exact same thing, too. It's so weird. Also, they took Jasper's guitar away. Why did they do that? Why would you take it away from him? Like, you had the animatronic, clearly. Come on. Also, you can kind of tell they don't really have a good amount of care or understanding for their history, because, like, you got a clearly, like, Pizza Time Theater, like, sign for the Chucky thing, despite the actual animatronic very obviously being the Rockstar outfit. If you want to amp up the nostalgia, at least give him his green shorts and his hat back, or put him in the tuxedo. Or even better, just take the animatronic as it was and put it in the case so I don't have to talk about there being an issue with it. Because there is an issue, okay? You killed him. Chuck E. Cheese's idea of preserving their animatronics is to destroy them still, but just keep the exterior of the animatronic looking normal. This sucks. Why is Mr. Munch's legs like that? This is weird. Why did they choose one of the ugly Chucky animatronics where his eyes are way too small? The idea of Chuck's Arcade is honestly pretty good. It's just, why did you have to go about making the animatronics look like this? It's literally more work for a worse result, and you're just destroying the history that you're trying to preserve with the existence of this place. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I'd visit this place if I saw it, but like, I'd be a little sad looking at these. Like, they'd be cool to see, but like, again, it's taxidermy. Chuck E. Cheese is inventing new things. They found a way to taxidermy an inanimate object. Aaron Fetcher found a way to invent a new fucking fuel. They don't call it the Rockefeller explosion for nothing. Anyway, Chuck E. Cheese tried to market to the nostalgic crowd through, I believe the first example was when they started selling Chuck E. Cheese t-shirts at Spencer's that were themed after the Avenger era. And I think selling merch using old designs is a really great idea. I actually like it, and I bought some of it, which I'll review later in the video, because, I don't know, I gotta talk about them. $70 bobbleheads don't become business expenses on their own. They released the retro Chuck E. Cheese Funko Pop, which is an interesting one because it's the Avenger design, but they called it retro Chuck E. Cheese, and I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It doesn't seem right. I wouldn't personally call this a retro Chuck E. Cheese. But I guess it's not technically incorrect. But this figure's pretty cool. It's got a little token, you know, it's nice looking. It's cool that they did this, although they never made any more, which is kind of weird to me. I would have really liked the whole set of these, either like figures of Chucky through the years or the other characters. I'm not really sure, but I feel like it was kind of obvious that they should have done that. Maybe they will eventually, who knows. They also did 6 plushies with U2s, which included the classic Pizza Time Theater designs of Chucky, Helen, Jasper, Pasquale, and Mr. Munch. But then they also made modern Chuck E. Cheese, which is kind of weird to me because I don't know. I don't really see where the market is for that. I mean, they've been making plushies of that design since 2012, and they haven't stopped. I don't know why there's a market for this, if there even is one. I believe there's another U2's one that's currently unreleased that I actually saw in a picture of the prize counter at Chuck's Arcade. This definitely looks like a U2's product. It's a smaller, probably a keychain Chuck E. Cheese plush, but I can't seem to find any other info on it. Also, why the hell do they have Bella Bunny plushies at the prize counter at Chuck's Arcade? What adult going to Chuck's Arcade is gonna get the Bella Bunny plush? And also, kind of off topic from the weird nostalgia merch argument, and I kind of want to use this as a way to reel FNAF back into here, but Chuck E. Cheese had an official Squishmallow one time, right? It looks like this. It's kind of terrible, but it did happen. And now, as you can see here, Chuck E. Cheese made their own Squishmallows, I assume because they couldn't get more official ones made, and I just think that's funny that Chuck E. Cheese had to go ahead and make their own, like, bootleg Squishmallows, because, like, FNAF got a whole official set of them instantly, with no extra negotiation. They were just able to get a full set. Chuck E. Cheese has got this. Chuck E. Cheese got this weird gross egg thing, and FNAF got an animatronic head that comes with 3 plushies. And let's get into some physical reviews here. Let's review this thing. Alright, so, what the hell is this? Get that out of here. I wanted to show you guys my awesome Chuck E. Cheese retro epic merchandise collection. So, this is my original Chuck E. Cheese plush from when I was younger. I always was sad that they didn't have the old design because I liked him more and I was too late for the party. So yeah, there we have him. And then we got this little guy. I kind of like this one more because he's more unique, but he's also kind of stupid. It's like a winter edition. I don't even know. But then I got this guy on eBay, and I really love this guy. This is actually a good Chuck E. Cheese plush. You can tell because he doesn't look ugly. I enjoy the red outfit on the Cool Chuck design. It definitely works well to me, and yup, he's awesome. And then here we got this little stupid thing. Now, I got this at Retro Game Con Mini, which was the tiniest little dinky convention I've ever been to. And I think this might have been like the only thing I got there. I don't remember what else I got. I think this might have actually been the only thing. They had this booth for the people who make these things. I completely forgot what they're called, but they had like also these like really expensive Chuck E. Cheese sneakers, but I didn't get those. But I wanted to get this guy because, you know, he's unique, you know, Pizza Time Theater, pretty cool. And then they also made the Funko Pop. He's got a very cool box, you know, with the old logos and stuff. He's an ad icon. Look at that art in the back. That is awesome. I love that. Wish they did more stuff like this. But then we got the actual figure, and he's pretty nice. I like putting him next to a Freddy Fazbear Pop because it would make the company mad. And then we got this thing. Now, this bobblehead is $75. They released this. It was limited edition. I think they only made 2,024 of them, which is a pretty fair amount, to be fair. But, you know, it is limited. So I got one, and I believe they're sold out by now. But this thing is very, very cool. And, yeah, it's definitely the best piece of Chuck E. Cheese merchandise I have. This is just cool. I've wanted this ever since I was little. I really, really wanted, like, some kind of figures of the animatronics. And although this isn't exactly what I would have wanted, this is probably the closest I'm ever gonna get. Ideally, I would want them to make like little miniature like replicas of the animatronics, so like little statues, because I just think it'd be really cool to have these little miniatures to like preserve them. But I don't know, this is a cool idea. I like them as a little bobblehead, all the little heads shake, and it also plays music. Actually, I don't know if any of this is copyrighted. It might be, but I'll just like yeah, Chuck E. Cheese collection tour. I've tore apart this whole shelf just to do this. There was stuff on here. It's like gone now. I want to apologize for this video not really being that much about FNAF, but I really wanted to get all these thoughts off my chest about Chuck E. Cheese in the modern age, and I still do think it's relevant. I think the course of history could have gone very differently if Chuck E. Cheese hadn't moved so far away from their history because of FNAF. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of physical memorabilia, whether it's action figures, promotional stuff, comic books, video games, CDs, like etc. Anything that you could have physically, I love that stuff. I value the history of the things that I like a lot. And it's just the way that the Chuck E. Cheese company treats their history and everything is genuinely gross. They have so little regard for these things that people are willing to pay thousands of dollars for. And the only times that they've actually shown that they care is through desperation. They need to backpedal on how they feel about their old stuff because they don't have enough money anymore. I'm shocked Chuck E. Cheese is still around, and I'd be even more shocked if they were still around in 10 years. They're undeniably going to become dead brand that only exists through nostalgia merchandise eventually. And there is an insane irony to Five Nights at Freddy's being the more iconic and relevant franchise in the modern day. Obviously, Chuck E. Cheese himself is still an insanely iconic character, but is it that crazy to say that Freddy Fazbear is a million times more recognizable to modern day kids than Chuck E. Cheese is? Is it that crazy to say that Chica and Bonnie are more popular than Helen, Henny, and Jasper ever were? Obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's and Chuck E. Cheese's exist in two very different contexts, but it's still just a crazy thing to think about. And let me show you something beautiful, okay? Here's a Chuck E. Cheese token. That's definitely from the year I was born. Here's a Chuck E. Cheese token from the year the redesign came through. And here's a Chuck E. Cheese token from the year FNAF came out. Isn't that beautiful? Five Nights at Freddy's is at Universal Studios in Florida, and Chuck E. Cheese is in London. So I think we can know which one's doing better. I usually don't know how to end my videos, I've realized. New plushie out now, only like 26 more days at the time of recording this, probably less by the time you're hearing this. Go get it while it's still there, because it's gonna be gone forever.